Sit!
Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson. He's Matt O'Hara.
Hey, hey.
And he's Garrett Price.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty good. We're going to talk about some third-year players propaganda.
Nice. Propaganda.
Propaganda at those stats.
Wow. Wow.
Propaganda at those sweet-ass stats. Well, I'm getting that.
That's propagantastic.
So, yeah, players that we think are third-year
third-year breakouts or, according to Matt O'Hara, breakups.
Breakups. See you later.
Man.
Sorry, baby. It's not me. It's you.
Did you ever enjoy breaking up with somebody?
I don't think anyone likes breaking up with people.
I can't recall enjoying it ever.
This one girl broke up with me. She looks pretty happy about it. It's not you, it's me kind of thing. You know?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. That didn't happen.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's been times where I was relieved afterwards.
Sure, to be done with that relationship.
Yeah.
But I don't think I ever was like, I cannot wait to dump her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even remember. It's been so long. It was like 3 riches ago.
There was that one guy that like took his like soon-to-be ex-girlfriend to like the tattoo parlor, and she's like, "Why is it a toilet?" And he's like, "'Cause you're dumped."
Wow.
Dude, that's cold-blooded, man.
Wow.
So I see those videos of like people cheating and they like get back at them doing weird things, and you're like, oh, dude.
Dude, I feel like most of that has to be staged, right?
I don't trust anything on the internet, to be honest with you.
That's fair.
That's why I don't watch anything. I don't watch reality. I've never watched reality TV. Never did because it was all fake.
Because it's not reality.
So yeah, we're talking about some third-year breakouts or breakups. You know, I will preface this by saying my breakup is very lame. When I picked a player,
Did you even have a relationship?
No, I don't think anybody did. I think he's probably on people's waiver wires. So you're gonna get.
Rich was that kid in the grade school, not parking lot, in the grade school. Where's the stuff where you play in the grade
Playground?
school? Thank you, the playground.
Wow.
Which is a word my brain didn't have there. Son of a gun.
What's that called?
Screaming across the
Free
playground.
play. It's like a land of play.
We're not going out anymore. And the girl goes, "What are you talking about?"
What are you talking about?
we were never going.
We were never going out.
She goes to another school.
I've not. Yeah, I don't even remember. I don't even have any like memories of being like
Playgrounds.
hardcore
Playgrounds.
ever. The only bad thing I ever did was like one time I went out. I asked Matt's wife at the time. Matt and his wife were dating, and I asked one of her friends out. And she agreed to go out with me, and we all went out. We went to downtown Lakewood, and I got so intoxicated. I took this girl on a date, and I ended up talking to another girl at the bar.
Yes.
The entire time.
I heard about that for a long time.
Yeah, it was the most cold-blooded thing I've ever done. But I was just so. That was old Rich.
That was old Rich.
I was bad. That was bad.
That was old Rich. She wasn't right for you.
No, yeah.
Clearly.
To be fair, most people aren't.
I mean, obviously.
Clear as day. I call her next day. I had no idea. I didn't remember. I didn't really remember. I think somebody told me like you handcuffed yourself to this other girl. I was like, where do these handcuffs come from?
I don't recall the handcuffs.
I could be
Maybe that
literal handcuffs?
Maybe it was instead of literal, it was a figurative handcuff that somebody was talking about.
It was a bad first date.
You were.
I kind of wish it was literal. That would be pretty funny.
On to another girl for sure.
But I felt bad because Matt's now current wife's really good friend.
Oh, and they're still buddies.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Do you ever see her at like birthday parties? Or?
I mean, no, but I saw her plenty of times like after that moment. It was fun. I mean, again, we didn't really like.
Yeah.
We didn't technically even go on a date.
It was right
Because the date never started.
Yeah, first date never really even happened.
Yeah. So, anyways, we're talking about third-year breakups and third-year breakouts, and I'm gonna go with my first breakout, not breakup, and that's Bryce Young. You've heard me say his name many times, and the more I think about it, boys, the more that I'm getting more like attached. And the reason I have him here because like. I know I've been talking about like he's a value, right? So like I'm just gonna go into all my notes of why I like Bryce Young, and I think
I almost picked him as a breakup. So I am interested to hear this. I picked somebody else.
I really feel like the second half of the season is what I'm looking at. He's really emerged as a dynasty asset. that second-hand surge was just awesome. He had a really bad rocky start. He got benched. But if you go back from week 8 on, so post-week 8, everything he did, I mean, nothing short of remarkable in my eyes. I mean, he showed such improvement in his play, and he became like a really dynamic quarterback. And when you look at him, like his efficiency and decision-making, I mean, he really showed he had some confidence in his passing game. His internal clock with the speed of the NFL really kind of took a turn for another level, and it really kind of made him turn into an efficient quarterback. I mean, his ability to make those big-time throws increased dramatically. He tied for 7th in the NFL with 27 big-time throws after week 8, according to PFF. Statistically wise, in the final stretch of the season, Young was among the leaders in several categories, including passing grade, deep passing grade, and pressure to sack percentage. His performance in these areas really kind of helped show like the team elevate as well, because we saw the Carolina Panthers take a step forward. And the thing that really kind of flipped it for me was we were all concerned about his size, but it was his mobility in those games and his rushing touchdowns that really kind of like, God, maybe this is something to work with here. Because I was always worried about his mobility because he was so small, but he made such big strides as a dual threat quarterback. He contributed in multiple games with 20-plus rushing yards and several scoring rushing touchdowns that add to his fantasy dynamic. I mean, he goes there, we mentioned last show, head coach Dave Canales, who's been a cute quarterback whisperer, seems like he might unlock something here again with Bryce Young. So with his work as quarterbacks, the system that he's in, what he did the second half with Adam Thielen and not else much around him, I think this is a team that can add a lot of weapons around him. He's only 23 years old and in the prime of his career. Looks like he's going to get an opportunity to really kind of solidify himself here. And again, it kind of goes back to what I'm saying with you guys. Like, do I think Bryce Young is going to be a high-end quarterback 1? No. But I think his value has plummeted so low, I really think he's become a very solid asset. And definitely with the quarterback market the way it is right now, like when you're getting back to this back end, like you're going to get your quarterback 1 for sure, and you're probably going to get your quarterback 2 possibly ahead of a guy like Bryce Young too. But there's not many quarterbacks out there that I can view as assets that want to take the gamble on Bryce Young. And yes, is it a gamble? 100%. But like Anthony Richardson, like if you told me who has a better chance long-term success, Bryce Young or Anthony Richardson, I'd probably lean Bryce Young.
I think that's fair just because I think there's a better chance of job security.
Oh, for sure.
I'm going to speak about Richardson, and I agree.
And look at what, like, Bryce Young got benched, right, for multiple games. He started a year off rough, man. I mean, week 1, 11.6. Week 2, 3 points. Then nothing, then 3.1, then nothing, and then minus 0.2. Nothing, right, for the first 8 weeks of the season. Despite giving you nothing, he finished his quarterback 24 in a year. He was a QB2. That's how good his second half stats were. So, and when you look at players that finished ahead of him, like Anthony Richardson, Kirk Cousins, Matt Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith, like these are all Sam Darnold. Like I feel more comfortable with a guy like Bryce Young. So if I just name 5 guys, he finished a quarterback 24, and you say, hey, Bryce Young's going to be quarterback 19 overall, 18 overall, like a mid-range quarterback too, to me, that is extremely valuable. And you can get him for QB3 pricing. So I think that my third-year breakout is I think he breaks out and I think he continues off that second half week 8 performance. And I think in year 3, Bryce Young solidifies himself as an NFL starting quarterback, which then solidifies himself as a dynasty quarterback. Because again, even if he's quarterback 19,
he's a quarterback 2. He's in there. He's scoring way more.
He's scoring way more points. And I can't remember his stats. I know I said that in a previous show, but if you go from week 8 on to week 8, from week 8 to week 17, the regular season on, Bryce Young was quarterback 16. That's a championship caliber player.
Yeah.
And we talk about this all the time. What is Dynasty Fantasy Football? It's finding these windows, moving it out. And I know I identified to Bryce Young like in the season. I was like, oh, maybe Bryce Young's kind of turning into something. You guys were like, oh, no, which is fair. Like, I'm not even like digging at it. Like, I get it. Like, I understood too. Like, I did not like Bryce Young's tape at all. And it's taken me a long point to get this, but like, I'm always going to believe what I see on NFL tape, just like I believe on college tape. And what I've seen tells me this is a great value in Dynasty. He's my number one target in startups to be like once I get my quarterback 2, like I know I can get him as my quarterback 3, and I feel really good about that.
I think that's while I agree with you, like, could I see him being a quarterback 19 type player, like good mid-range to low-end quarterback 2? Like, absolutely. The problem is in our most recent ADP, within 10 picks of him above, you have Michael Penix, Dak Prescott, Tua, J.J. McCarthy, and then Bryce Young, and then Sam Darnold after him. So to me, like, I don't think he's like that amazing of a value because he's pretty much the same value as all those guys, and I would take all of those players, including Sam Darnold, ahead of him.
Okay. Again, this is third-year breakouts.
Right. I'm just saying, like,
I think he breaks out and establishes himself as the starting quarterback.
Listen, I think
what you're saying too. I'm not saying like
this is a real
all in.
This is a real flexible interpretation of
for sure
breakout. I think on this one, and you mentioned it. I mean, like your version of breaking out for a guy like this is not continuing to tumble down that hill. He picked himself back up, kind of got his footing underneath him, and maybe is going to get a shot here, which I think all of us can agree. This time last year, none of us thought he had that.
Correct, absolutely.
So I think I think the important part to pull from this is that he is. I think he's stopped his skid, and I agree with you in some point. I don't know how much upside I see there. I still don't see him as some high end guy, but if you're getting him at QB3 prices, I think that's where the rubber meets the road, where it makes this like good value. Because I do think he can maybe establish himself, at least for the next couple of seasons, as a QB2, because he's at least earned next year.
And what's that ADP? What quarterback is he off the board?
23.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, if that's his ADP and where he's going, I kind of understand that. I think that will switch once Shadur Sanders and Cam Ward come in.
Sure,
like,
they'll be taking
if Jackson Dart or one of these guys like Jalen Milroe kind of slip in there too, could get ahead of him as well. It's just he's a very, like, kind of goes back to what I was saying before. Like when I can identify these younger like dynasty assets that offer me some upside, like these are the kind of guys like I like to pounce on, and this is the kind of depth I like to add to my roster because right now, like when you're in Superflex, it's so hard to go get young quarterbacks. Like right now, like go try and get Michael Penix. Like the value is going to be way more than what you paid as a rookie. Bo Nix is skyrocketed.
Absolutely.
So like when I'm sifting through the weeds trying to find value, like Bryce Young, 23-year-old quarterback. I'm okay paying quarterback 24 prices for a guy like that. So when I say he breaks out, my breakout for him, you're right. It's a little different where I think he's going to break out from that negative asset to a positive asset.
That's fair.
And before he does that, like eventually that point's going to change, and that's where I'm in on it. But I do think he breaks out and establishes himself as a quarterback. And we know if you're a top 24 quarterback, you're usually a top 70 overall scorer.
No doubt. I'm going to flip things around here. I'm going to go down to a breakup. We're talking quarterbacks.
Okay.
And I've already kind of teased him enough that I feel like we should just get into Anthony Richardson here a little bit. I also kind of neither one of you guys had this guy. I was tossing around the idea of Will Levis as well.
Sure.
As a breakup, but I mean the fact that Tennessee has the first overall pick, I'm guessing that they're going to go quarterback because they need a quarterback. They need it there. So I don't know that would be much of a breakup because he's just going to kind of fade into the distance. But as far as Anthony Richardson goes, they're picking, I think, 14th or 15th or something like that overall. Not in a great place to get another quarterback.
Nope.
But, Anthony Richardson's an odd guy for fantasy, right? Because there's, he finished as quarterback 25 on the year last year, and there's probably a lot of people out there that believe, hey, I mean, if he can do as poorly as he did and finish as quarterback 5, why would you want to break up with this guy? And he just doesn't. For me, he does not pass the quarterback smell test. He only completed 47.7% of his passes, which is the worst by far, by a large margin, by anyone not named Dorian Thomas Robinson, who had like 51.7 or something like that. But at least with DTR, there's some excuses. Like, dude was a 5th round draft pick. Yeah. He wasn't really expected.
Nobody's using him.
Yeah, he wasn't expected to be a starting quarterback anytime soon. Like, he was a very much so a project, even more so than Anthony Richardson coming into the league. But I mean, they used the 4th pick overall on this guy, and it goes more. There's more to it than just the completion percentage. Because if you look back even to his time in college, his completion percentages were below 60 and hovering closer to 50. He had 1 year where it kind of spiked, and it was only on 64 attempts or something that it got close to 60%. So he's never going to be a high percentage guy, I don't think. But the fact that he doesn't have a lot of good excuses outside of the fact that he's just not performing well. The wide receivers there are good. We've talked about how good, Michael Pittman is. They have Downs. They have Alec Pierce as a pretty good, deep threat. And obviously the running back there, we all think is a pretty good back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's kind of one of these guys that, sometimes guys come into the league and they're set up to fail. He's been set up to succeed. And I don't want to say that he hasn't done that, but he's gotten worse. You know what I mean? Like it's not just the failure. It's the fact that he went from last year looking okay to this year looking really, really bad. And on top of just the way he's looked and the bad completion percentage, the day that he tapped out on a running play and called out that he was, that was it for me. I was done. Last night we watched a guy push himself to the limit on one drive, come out of the game after scoring a touchdown, puke, and then go back in. And that guy was playing his guts out.
And there was rumblings that he may have broken his ribs.
You saw him doing this like the whole game. Yeah. So Riley Leonard's the guy I'm talking about from Notre Dame, and he can't hit the broadside of a barn either as far as passing goes on a lot of things. But I would rather have a guy like that who is putting 100% into everything he does and gives a crap, than a guy that's coming out and tapping out on a drive after running a little bit. You know what I mean? That to me was the death sentence. I don't understand how you can kind of put any chips in on a guy like that who's not even doing it himself. You know what I mean? And I know he's going. There's rumblings that he's going. He's going to this biometric guy, the same guy that Josh Allen went to kind of fix some of the issues he had when he came into the league. Again, if you don't give a crap enough, how can I believe that you're going to fix what you got to fix? Even if you're going to this biometrics guy, you got to want it to make that big of a change and to be able to do all that stuff. And I just don't know that he has the want it. So he is my breakup. I mean, I kind of have been alluding this and dancing around it all year, but I wanted to say it emphatically. If I had any Anthony Richardsons and any shares and anybody wanted him off my teams, make an offer. You know what I mean? It's dirt cheap. This is bottom basement stuff. I just want him. I want him off my roster. I don't want to see him anymore in my lineups.
Totally fair. I have no
teams.
argument for me whatsoever. He was my easy choice to take as my breakup. I wish I would have used him compared to who I got. I had a really hard time with this draft class because so many people were like obvious picks, and like Anthony Richardson was the clear obvious, and then like everybody else like for their ADP wise was like pretty good or still offered upside. So like this class for me, I think I can't remember who Garrett's guy is, but like so far going through the third year, like it's been very definitive.
Yep.
Right. Like
agreed.
Anthony Richardson's probably the only guy that kind of still like holds on to like some value.
That's why I wanted to say because he's QB 25 and he missed time and all that kind of stuff. That the fact that he still was able to finish his QB 25, there might be some people out there thinking that he's got a chance. To me, he doesn't have a chance. He's just not the guy that they're already talking about bringing in. They should have been bringing in competition last year. They're going to bring in somebody better as far as a backup goes that maybe can actually push him a little bit.
I'm with you. If I brought him to a bar, I would probably be talking to somebody else.
You would be talking.
Yeah, the entire time.
You would be handcuffed to another player like that.
Yeah, very easily. Like, what
Come here, Brock Purdy.
Looking
purty
awfully,
mouth.
You got some purty lips right there, Brock.
Oh man! All right. Well, I'll go back to the.
Yeah, go wherever you want. I've already broken format. Do whatever you want.
No, it's all good. Hey, I get it. It made sense, Bryce, to Anthony Richardson, so I get it. But I am going to go back to the third-year breakout, and I think to some extent there are people that could say, "Well, this guy kind of already broke out, so is he really a breakout?" But I'm going with Tucker Kraft here.
Okay.
And the reason I chose him is when I saw his ADP last week on last week's show, that really keyed into me that people aren't valuing this player to, I think, the potential that he has. And I think he should be valued quite a bit higher. He was ranked as the 110th player in Superflex tight end premium off the board. And when we saw that last week, it didn't sit well with me. Puts him at number 12 as far as his positional rank, which I get that. I have him significantly higher than that. And so I started digging into him a little bit. And specifically when you look at his numbers could have been quite a bit better. He had still the, is it Luke Musgrave thing to start the year. And so for the first 4 weeks, Luke Musgrave was here, and it kind of got him off to a little bit of a slow start. 5.7 points, 3.6 points, 4.4 points. So he didn't get to start the year off gangbusters. But from that point on, the rest of the year, Tucker Kraft had a really, really nice season. And while there was still some inconsistencies there, that's something that I think could be cleaned up a little bit in this coming year. One, if it's clear that he is the guy from the get-go, they're not having to work him into the offense. Like, he's the guy. He's going to be doing all the offseason work. He's going to do all that kind of stuff.
Didn't he have a pec? Was it a torn pec in the offseason that he came back from?
Yep.
That could have also
slowed him down.
Been part of that slow start.
Absolutely. Now you factor in Christian Watson is likely not involved in this offense at all next year with another significant injury. And we saw all of these assets, even though there's other good wide receiver assets, even their best one, Jaden Reed, was really inconsistent last year.
Lots of fumbles.
Lots of just, he'd have a week where he had, 8 targets and 2 rushing attempts and then 1 target the whole game, and it was really inconsistent. I think they cleaned that up this year and they say, hey, Tucker Kraft was, when we went to him, he was always there. He was always open. He was always consistent. And when you look at him compared to a lot of the other tight end options, what we have now outside of Brock Bowers and Trey McBride were a lot of older tight ends that are only going to be decreasing in value.
Sure.
And then we have a lot of other guys that we think could or should be good, but have shown next to nothing as far as saying that they're actually going to do it. Tucker Kraft has shown us many times that he can be that guy. So for me, I'm willing to kind of put my chips in a little bit more. If there was a tight end that I was going to be taking after Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, and I was willing to, that tight end 3 to 10, that's kind of all real murky. If there was one that I would want to target, it would probably be Tucker Kraft. And I think he has the opportunity here with Jordan Love to be one of the few players, and I think this was the big thing for me. He has the opportunity to be one of the few players that could legitimately end up being the top receiving option in his offense. Will it happen? I don't know for sure. But if you look at the other players that even have the chance to do that, the guys that get there are the guys that Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Travis Kelce for years. Like, those are the guys. He at least has a clear path to being the number one option in this offense. I could see him breaking out in his third year.
Yeah, I'm real curious how that Green Bay offense looks in 2025. You'll have a healthy Luke Musgrave, who also has a lot of upside at tight end position there. You mentioned Christian Watson will probably miss most of the year, if not all the year, with his knee injury. Jaden Reed was on pace to dominate the year, but then faded off after week 5 or so. It got Dubs, it got Wicks. It's really.
Don't forget the running game. I mean, they got Lloyd
Josh
coming
Jacobs.
back.
Lloyd coming back too.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs is obviously established, but Lloyd is a guy that didn't even touch the field last year. They used a pretty high pick on him.
And it's interesting to see how Tucker Kraft is used, because even when Luke Musgrave finally came back, that's when he stopped producing double-digit points. So I like Tucker Kraft. I saw he's a big, strong tight end. At the same time, I'm just so worried about week
to week,
kind of where we've been with Green Bay now for a couple of years now. How is this all going to shake out? And every time we feel like we have our finger on the pulse, something happens, and it's a new name pops up or something else goes on there. And even Jordan Love had a couple up and down moments there this year. So for me, this Green Bay offense, and then for somebody who was all in on Jaden Reed and made a lot of trades for him, gave him a lot of first round picks, and I'm feeling hey man, I hope this can reestablish itself next year in his third year in the NFL. But I'm more of I need value to dip my toe in that water compared to I'm going to go chase that value, if that makes sense.
The FFPC playoff challenges are back for another season. Just pick 12 players, one from each playoff team, and ride them all the way to the big dance. It's that simple. Over $1.8 million is on the line between the two contests exclusively at FFPC.
Totally.
Who's your myself? My breakout.
No, I'll go with my breakout because we're sticking with the theme anyway here. So my breakout guy is Brenton Strange.
Brenton Strange.
What?
Brenton Strange.
What did I say?
Brandon.
It's Brenton.
Yeah.
I have Brenton written down.
He looks really good.
He did look really good. So he finished last year as tight end 31 on the season. There was a couple of stretches, obviously, when Evan Ingram missed time, between weeks 2 to 5 and then 15 to 18. And that's really when you got to see what it would kind of look like with Evan Ingram off the field and what Brenton Strange could do in those times. In weeks 2 through 5, he was tight end 9 on the year, which is kind of his best stretch there. Weeks 15 through 18, he was tight end 17. That was also kind of coincided with the time that Mac Jones took over at quarterback. So I guess maybe that wasn't as good of a connection. Resulted in tight end 17, which is kind of in the pack of whatever.
He had one good game and 2 duds.
Right, exactly. So this is a guy that they spent a high second-round draft pick on.
That's what I say. If I recall right, he was like a decent second-round pick.
He was
just like, that's weird because he's like more of a blocking tight end.
It was an odd thing at the time, but I think this is kind of what their inevitability was, hey, let's sign Evan Ingram to this contract. Brenton Strange will kind of come along behind him. And next year is exactly when all the guarantees dry up in Evan Ingram's contract. His cap hit goes from $7 million to $19.5 million next year with no guarantees, and they can kind of get out from underneath him. Exactly. So this is one of those things. There's going to be a new coaching staff. There's going to be new GM. There's
maybe a new GM.
Possibly a new GM.
Currently is in place.
But
Ben Johnson passed on him because he said he doesn't like the structure of the franchise.
Oh, that's right.
In Jacksonville, you already mentioned Christian Kirk. All his stuff is drying up.
He's gone too.
Right. But the top 2 guys as far as cap hits next year are Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram. And if he was coming off a season like he had in 2023, maybe that's palatable. You know what I mean? But for a 30-year-old guy who last year scored, or he had 365 receiving yards and 1 touchdown, you're not going to have a $19 million cap hit for a tight end that really just had 1 good season for you and just kind of another okay season and then a crap season last year.
Yeah, man, they need to restructure. And with the emergence of Brian Thomas, like they realized they got to add other weapons around there. So I
agreed. So this is my guy that I really think is just going to get an opportunity just based off of the fact that there's kind of new blood coming in as far as the organization. The contract for Evan Ingram and kind of Christian Kirk both spell kind of doom as far as older guys, higher cap number, and I think they're going to be out of there. And I really just liked what I saw at him. He was a target monster. He caught everything that was thrown his way. And Brenton Strange, I keep wanting to call him Brandon, but it's Brenton Strange, I just think has an opportunity to go from tight end 31 in kind of obscurity at least into the mix. I don't know that he's going to have like a huge top 10 type of thing, but you're talking about, you don't want to dip your toe in that water and kind of chase for a guy like Tucker Kraft. You might be able to get a Tucker Kraft type of guy in Brenton Strange and at a much cheaper price.
And that goes back to what I said about like the eye test. Like his numbers weren't like eye popping, but when he was involved, like he looked really good involved in offense.
There were a couple of
if he can become part of that offense, he could become a weapon.
There were a couple of target monster type of games in there. So he really does have, I think, some upside. And with Brian Thomas being a guy and maybe Brenton Strange being a guy, they don't have a ton. Parker Washington's kind of the only other guy that's on that roster that you feel
sort of established.
Yeah, that you feel okay about if both Kirk and Evan Ingram are gone. So it's gonna be interesting, especially if Liam Cohen comes in there. I think that'll be. We've seen Kate Otten kind of succeed here in that same offense, and Brenton Strange I think is a very similar type of guy to Kate Otten.
All right, Garrett.
My breakup is with a guy that had a pretty decent year this year, and that's Quentin Johnston. Obviously, his first season was mega dud, but in year 2, he did some things to kind of reestablish himself a little bit. 711 yards, 8 touchdowns. Like there was a lot to like in his second year. For me, I'm utilizing the momentum that happened this season to say, see ya. Because I think this is the perfect opportunity to get out. One, he was not consistent at all. And I think that's the hardest part with players like this, where you don't know when you can put him in your lineup and when you can't put him in your lineup. He ended up being wide receiver 39 overall in the season, but we have a 22-point game, two 22-point games, and a 31.6-point game. But he also had a 6-point game, a 2-point game,
Hold on,
a 5-point game.
Let me just go through this in order so that people
Okay,
get a better
sure.
feel. 6.8, 22.1, 12.4, 2.3, bye week, 5.2, missed a game, 22, 10.4, 12.8, 0, 3.2, 15.8, 15.5, 4.8, 9.8, 31.6.
Yeah.
And
Good luck.
80% of that production was broken coverage.
Yep, for real. If you watch
like
the
legit,
games,
not
yeah.
even me being stupid rich.
No, for real. A lot of that is crazy, just broken down plays.
I'd be like, oh, we don't have to cover him. He'll drop it anyways. And then catch it's like, we'll take those odds.
Yep.
And you know, some of his games early were partly due to just like Ladd McConkey still kind of coming along and getting his footing. Once Ladd McConkey became the guy, he was clearly the guy. Like it was not even close. This is a team that is primed to take another pass catcher in this draft, whether it's at wide receiver or at tight end. I would be very surprised if they don't take somebody on day 1 or day 2 at one of those two positions. Or they look in free agency potentially as well. There's not a ton of options in free agency this year, but I'd be very surprised if they walk into next season with the exact same wide receiver room, tight end room that they have right now. This is a team that did throw the ball more towards the end of the season, but their roots are still in that running game. So all of that being said, touchdowns, especially with somebody that gets as few targets as Quentin Johnston. He only had 91 targets, didn't even eclipse 100 targets. Somebody that gets that few targets to get 8 touchdowns is very, very fluky. You don't know when to play him, and I think regression is probably coming. So all of that being said, I think this is a great time to say like, hey, can I get a mid-second for Quentin Johnston? Would love to make a move like that.
Yeah, please sign me up. So my last guy, my breakup here, I'm going to admit, it was doing my research during National Championship Monday.
We're all wearing our Buckeye shirts.
I was daydreaming of Jeremiah Smith and how I need to come up with a game plan to make sure I have the number 1 overall pick in 2027. That's my
Breaking
number
news.
1 goal in all my
He's
dynasty.
fantastic.
Breaking news.
And then I was thinking of, wow, I got like the 1-3 in a lot of Superflex leagues. Not a lot, but I think 2. I ended up like some pre-draft processes, and I was like, man, like I might take Travion Henderson there. Then I was like daydreaming, like, man, if Travion Henderson goes to the Browns with the first pick in the 3rd round, like I'm definitely taking Travion Henderson there. Like I'm gonna go ahead and let my love kind of transcend there because, and obviously I gotta still watch all the tape.
Sure,
but it's like, man, I just love the way he plays. And you watch Quinshon Judkins, like, man, I really had to get some Quinshon Judkins shares too. Like, where's the value at? So I move up. So I'm looking at like old ADP from 2023, and I'm looking at draft capital. And again, I had a real hard time here because, like, for myself, like a lot of these guys were pretty self-evident, right?
Yep.
And I settled on Jonathan Mingo, and I was like, oh, Jonathan Mingo, 2nd round pick, clear path there in Carolina. And I'm doing all my like notes and stats. I'm like, oh my God, I got traded to Dallas.
Oh my God, he's not
So,
in Carolina.
Looking here, I'm going to pivot.
breaking it up.
So he broke up with everybody already. So I tried to go break up with him and realized he was dead. So I couldn't say goodbye. He was already dead in the ground. He's on a waiver wire.
Put some flowers on there.
He moved to Europe.
So I'm looking here at ADP.
He goes to another
allegedly he did. That's what the note said. I don't know. It's probably just my face. I'm looking here at ADP and players on there, and there's one name that sticks out that you might still be able to get value for that I am definitely completely on now I want to break up with. And it's no fault to his own. It's just genetics and genetics alone. Tank Dell. Houston Texans. I still think he might hold some value. It's hard because, like, again, a lot of these guys are so, like, I'm not out on Marvin Mims after how he looked in the year. Like, I'm still on here. And Quentin Johnston's a good one. Your guys are all good ones.
The other player I thought of, because the Hive loves this guy, and he had like a tiny bit of a glimpse at the end of the season. The Kendre Miller people love Kendre Miller.
He was on my list too, but I was like, he was my first choice, to be honest with you.
Was
I'm
he?
like, but man, like, dude, like, Alvin Kamara's a little older. Like, he's still under contract. Like, he might get an opportunity there again next year. Like, I'm
You're
not
in
in.
the hive. You're in the hive.
No, I don't want anything to do with him. But like, again, he's almost
Sure.
like he said he's like dead, but like I can still see him.
Did he fake his own death?
Can't make the team from the sub.
He's in jail.
Kendrick Miller ain't.
He's in jail. Like, it doesn't matter how much I love him. We're never making love. You know, like it's. Well, they have
those conjugal
They got
visits.
those
Yeah.
conjugal visits.
How do those work? I'll say that for another show.
How do those work?
They just put you in a room and say, "Get here. All right, here's your conjugal visit." Well, like, who cleans up after that?
I don't know.
Other prisoners? And like, if you're in prison, like, do you trust them with your dirty sheets? They're probably in there sniffing.
Or do you just have to clean up after yourself?
Yeah, but
Gross.
then do you trust that? Like, you're in jail, like you're shoving that sheet in the pocket. You're like, this smells like love.
Gross.
I guess I don't know what love smells like.
This got real weird.
Weird to poor Mingo.
This
Poor Kendrick Miller.
This got weird when he picked Jonathan Mingo all of a sudden. I don't know what happened.
So yeah, I mean, Tank Dell, man. Like, listen, his rookie year showed some promise there. In the end of the year, get his leg snapped because he's fragile. And then this past year, like, I still don't even know how he caught that ball. Like, that leg injury is career ending.
He's going to have a hard time coming back from that, man.
So
dislocated knee and basically dislocated kneecap and like basically shredded everything, right?
yeah, I mean, his bone was sticking out of the leg, I believe.
I thought that was his kneecap.
Oh, maybe it was
Being dislocated and kind of way over here.
It's one of the grossest injuries I've ever seen.
It was bad.
So for me, I still think you might, and I don't know what that value. It might be a 4th round pick when you're on the clock, and there's like that tight end you like or running back. I don't think there's any way he can come back from that to the point of being a dynasty asset at all. So for me, I'm going to pivot off the dead guy, Jonathan Mingo. R.I.P.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
For the record, he's not really dead. In case anyone
Yes.
out there thinks that Jonathan Mingo died and there's
He has a
breaking news.
pulse.
Yep.
Are you telling me that note was fragile, like fake news?
It was fake news. Can I pivot real quick before we get off this subject?
Of death?
You want to talk about conjugal visits?
I was thinking about talking about maybe something close to conjugal visits. How about that?
Ooh.
There was a piece of me that wanted to. I'm at the bar with Dalton Kincaid, and I'm looking around. Do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
To use Rich's analogy.
It crossed my mind.
To use,
I thought for sure you were going that route.
so I wanted to check in on Rich on Dalton
I
Kincaid
think that's fair.
and how close he was, because I know I was close to putting him on here as my breakup.
I considered it, but I'm gonna go back with he's got the draft pedigree.
Yes.
I love the college tape.
He better, because he doesn't look like he can play in the NFL.
And
at times.
historically, it takes 3 years for a tight end to come along, but it does not look good.
The optics when I watch the Buffalo Bills are he isn't tough enough to be an NFL player.
The Buffalo Bills are weird because, like, you have Dalton Kincaid, who we thought the offense was going to run through. Nothing. Then you bring in Amari Cooper, getting nothing.
Nothing.
Like, how does this team function?
And they're like elite. Yeah. It's
Josh Allen
and Khalil
is
Shakir.
Superman.
And like Dawson Knox. And
It's
then,
like, oh, yeah, Curtis Samuel time. Like,
and James
what
Cook.
is happening?
Yeah, like it's the like you're right. It's like a really good offense that moves the ball down, scores a lot of points, and the only one you can really say you want in fantasy right now is James Cooks and Khalil Shakir. It's the wildest. It's the wildest. You're right. It's a wildest thing.
This shouldn't work, but it
So
does.
like I am not out on Kincaid yet, but like I need it. I need it next year, or I'm gonna make sure your life insurance is up to date. So I tell my wife all the time when she goes somewhere, I'm like, "Is your life insurance up to date?" Just saying.
Just checking.
Where are you going? Just checking. It's close. So I'm not getting divorced, but I've Googled divorce attorneys.
Does it worry you though when you watch? Because it worries me when I watch Bills games that he's not doing anything.
He just looks slower than I want him to be,
And not tough. He does not look tough to me.
I mean, he probably beat you up, but
No kidding, man. 6'6", 250.
But you know what? Matt
600
would keep getting back up.
Yeah,
I mean,
250
and
pounds.
the fact
That's
that-
damn right I would.
Yeah, he would.
He hasn't been
I ain't
playing,
hear no bell.
He didn't start playing football to a senior of high school, then played JUCO, and then went to. I mean, like he's still like growing into the football play.
I hope
it's
it.
why I was so excited about his tape because he looks so
Yeah.
good. His route running looks so good, and his hands look so good. It's just like
In
hasn't
today's NFL, you
translated.
only get so much time, and it's ticking.
Well, that's the thing. This is it for him. Like this year is his year. Like if he doesn't put it together this year, like yeah, unfortunately, it's done for. And I have so many shares. Love is blind. It
I have
shouldn't be.
I have a lot too, and I took some of them just to spite Rich.
Just so he couldn't get him.
I knew that I was drafting right out. I'm going to take him in a bunch of startups and stuff like that. So I got probably too many Dalton Kincaid shares, and I'm looking around.
I'm very.
I'm
worried.
at the bar browsing around. You know what I mean? Trying to find a new tight end.
Dude, thank goodness in one league where we did the Dynasty Nerds league where it's a 2 points per reception anniversary, and I took Dalton Kincaid in the fourth, and people were like, "Oh, no surprise." Thank goodness in the rookie draft this year I got Brock Bowers. Like,
oh,
my
yeah.
gosh, yeah.
thank goodness.
Saved
So,
the day.
yeah, he was on the list. I eyed it up, but listen, I'm not going to call my wife ugly. You know, I mean, that's you don't come back from that.
You don't come back.
So like,
do not.
I'm still trying to like make this work.
Just color me concerned.
Give me at least a conjugal visit.
That's
Come on.
what I was trying to get to. I was trying to get back to the conjugal visits.
Yeah,
That's
you
all I
really
was-
tied it in right because
Yep.
you're right. That's where I mean, he's in jail right now, but like I'm still trying to like come
We're
visit.
still sending letters.
Okay.
But I only want to visit conjugally. Is
For one thing.
that how you say it?
Conjugally.
I want to conjugally see you.
I have no idea.
I don't even know what that means, where that comes from.
I don't know either. There's got to be a root word in there or something that means wee.
I have a, I have a big like. I always like look up like sometimes you're like, where did that word come from?
Yeah.
Like
Words are funny.
Where did that start? I did it this past weekend in New York, or the other day. We were, I don't know who I was with, and I was like, "Why is it called being straight? Like if you're straight, like why do they call it being straight? Like what does that mean?"
Straight and narrow? I don't know. What?
Yes, but when I found out, this is crazy. This is literally this week. I'm like, calling straight was a gay term, where like if you're a homosexual and then you went to be straight or non-homosexual, they called it going straight. So if somebody says you're straight, technically it means you used to be homosexual,
Oh.
but now you're not.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was
I
kind
mean, I
of
think
news to
that's
me.
the root term. I don't think it's used that way, right?
Yeah, tons of words are different.
Yeah.
You know, like for shizzle used to mean like something was shizzling, and now it means, oh, that's cool.
I don't think that means that anymore either.
I don't think it does either. But it is weird, like how words could like just like
Evolve over time.
evolve. That's
They
the word.
do
I was
evolve.
like transport something. I don't know.
They evolve.
Yeah. So conjugate. I want to conjugate. I'm gonna go share it to my wife. I want to conjugate.
I don't know if you can because you're not in jail. Doesn't that have to be part of it?
Well, do you have the handcuffs still?
Can you imagine walking in the bedroom and like your significant other there, and she's like, "Oh, hey," and you're like, "Whoa! This is just a conjugal visit." I'm 100% gonna use it, babe. This is just a conjugal visit, nothing more.
I don't want you to kiss and tell because that's rude. But just let me know how that goes.
That's impolite.
That's impolite.
Well, odds are my wife is used to me saying stupid stuff every day. Like literally yesterday, we're sitting there, I said something, and she's like, "Why do you even say what you say?" I'm like, "Well, he's laughing."
You sound like Michael Scott.
We'll be back.
Why are you the way that you are?
We'll be back next week. What's next week's shows?
I don't remember. I can look.
We'll let everyone know next week.
I'll let you know if I have a convictical weekday.
Dude, I can't even roll my eyes enough for this episode.
I don't even know what's going on anymore. Just want to know how those conjugal visits work. I'm gonna Google that tonight.
Yeah. Please get back to us.
I just wanna know
Everyone
We
is,
are super cute.
I, don't,
everyone's
I
really
understand.
curious.
I just want to know who cleans up.
End
Let-
it, Matt.
if
End it.
if
End
anyone's-
it, Matt.
if anyone's ever had one, please hit Rich up at.
Dynasty Rich.
There you go.
Yeah, let me know. I'm very curious. I get curious about things, and I like to Google and see.
I would really enjoy searching through your Google history.
I wouldn't. Adios.
Hey, Nerd Herd, Dynasty Nerds has an incredible new offer from Underdog Fantasy for new customers. When you sign up as a new customer, you'll get a chance at their new customer free pick. But that's not all. Underdog is also offering incredible deposit bonuses. Use the promo code NERDS when you first sign up, and Underdog will give you up to $1,000 in bonus cash with your first deposit. That's right, $1,000 to kickstart your fantasy football journey. Don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the Underdog app. Sign up today with promo code NERDS and start your journey to fantasy football glory today. Must be 18, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. In New York, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. And in Tennessee, call 1-800-889-9789.